Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to have one of my youngest friends in the travel industry, but also I've known him quite a considerable time. And he is one of the big cheeses at a company called Ocean Holidays. They've been going for 20 years. Two sets of brothers set up the business 20 years ago. They've done exceptionally well. They've just had a rebrand. They've just had a celebratory party at the US Embassy, no less. I mean, you've got to be going something to get a US Embassy. And the young man I have in front of me this morning is Harry Hastings. Good morning, Harry.
Morning, Graham. How are you?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad.
Good.
Harry, as they say in the films, where did it all begin? How did you four get together? I mean, were you all at school together? You played in the same football team? Did you meet in a pub? Did you have a fight down a pub and thought it'd be a good idea to take this outside? How did it all begin?
Well, I guess for those of you that remember, it all began on teletext with the old analog pages in the early 2000s. I'm 6 years younger than George, my brother, and David and Dan were starting a travel company of their own in Essex in the early 2000s. And George and I are very young. I was late teens, him early 20s, were selling holidays off the teletext in South London. And and as Dave and Dan got going, we got introduced to them through a supplier. And we struck up a partnership with them to run a Florida specialist tour operator from Borough in SE1 to kick off in 2004, whilst Dave and Dan were busy selling holidays to Dubai and beyond. Their teletext page was called then, and we stuck up Ocean Florida. And from January 2004, the four of us started working together in separate locations under the same license, and worked side by side for a number of years, right through to where we are today, 20 years later. And I guess when you say where it all began and how did we get going in the travel industry, and it's funny, I really do look back at those teletext days and how travel businesses and travel agents were able to get going and start up, and that is very much where it all began. And then we moved into the digital age, shall we say, and started building websites and our CRM, and lots happened after that. And we were down at the embassy a few weeks ago celebrating 20 years. We've also on our LinkedIn over the last 4 to 6 weeks been publishing founder stories. So if anyone's interested, you can see a blog that all four of us have each individually written about the history of the company.
Yeah, I've actually read some of those. They are very, very interesting. And I think from a human interest point of view, I noticed Dan didn't mention the ring, but there you go. But still, throughout that 20 years, obviously, you were all young men. Have you had that? I'm sure you've had loads and loads of advice. Most of it's gone in one ear and out the other. But have there been key pieces of advice or key individuals that you've looked up to and to mentor you because it is a very, very good story, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think we've not necessarily had key individuals that we've looked up to. I guess working so closely together, the four of us, a lot of our first 10 years, we were, like I said earlier, in our late teens, early 20s. And in those first 10 years, none of us finished university, or none of us particularly had careers before starting our travel businesses. And there was a lot of learning on the job. And I would say for those first 10 years, it was we were literally teaching ourselves as we went. And then in 2012, we had a really difficult period where financial irregularities were found in the business, and we almost lost it all. And I think around that time, we saved the business, and we did everything we could with the support of many people around us. And when I think about some of the advice that I've had over the years, what always rings in the back of my brain is that good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. And I think that, in business, you have to try things out, you have to make mistakes, but you have to learn from those mistakes, and you have to be prepared that sometimes you will have bad judgment, but it's how you respond to that and how that experience teaches you to do better going forward. And I know it's a cliche, and people talk about failing fast all the time, and that you have to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes in order to grow and get better. But it really, really does ring true. So when you say to me, Graham, you know, what sort of advice would you say that you've had? I'd say the first thing that comes to mind is exactly that. Just remember that, you know, good judgment comes from experience. Experience comes from bad judgment, and don't be too hard on yourself. If you make mistakes with the best intentions, just make sure you learn from them. And I think that's probably the best advice that I've ever had, and it's what I always say to people when they talk to me about their business and growing their business and some of the challenges that people have, and also some of the opportunities. It's just keep learning. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, but just make sure you do learn from those mistakes.
Very good advice. Generally, I would think from any sector of life. But you mentioned 2012 was a tough period. Obviously, the pandemic would have been a tough period. But they're tough periods. Obviously, you're still going after 20 years. You're going very, very nicely. Was there a breakthrough period? You know, was it going digital that you thought, bloody hell, this is good? You know, we're really going places here. Was there a sort of a dong moment, you know, where you thought, yeah, I like this. This is good.
I think that what happened to us in 2012 really changed the four of us and changed our relationship. You know, Daniel Ox, one of my business partners, had built up an incredible online travel agent, one of the early adopters of dynamic packaging called beatthebrochure.com, which many will remember. And when we hit a rocky period in 2012, we were forced to sell that brand so that we could focus on long haul holidays and luxury travel. So that's where Ocean Florida and David Ox's business unit, now called Winged Boots, which was, as I mentioned earlier, originally the Buy and Beyond. And we focused on those two businesses. And then in 2014, we launched an inbound receptive business. So we wholesale vacation homes to the travel trade. And I think that the sort of 12 to 24 months following 2012, we really sort of came into our own as two sets of brothers working together. And we essentially had to take a business which had a large deficit in it from where it was in 2012 to make it profitable as quickly as possible, and to get ourselves out of trouble in the subsequent years. And we grew it fourfold from that point onward over the following 5 or 6 years. And I would say those first 12 to 24 months was when we really thought we've got a fantastic business here, and we really started to believe in ourselves. And I would say that period there was what gave us the confidence when we looked at the business and we saw the growth from 12 to 13 to 14 to 15, 16. You know, we grew the business by double-digit percentages every single year, right up until early 2020, which is when we all know what happened then. But
yeah.
But those years there, those early years, was what really gave us confidence, and we really believed in ourselves to do it. And I think we started to learn a lot more, and we're really proud of what we were doing, and growing our teams, and building fantastic teams, and growing the number of people that worked at Ocean Holidays, both in the UK and internationally. We were building a team in the US at the same time. So yeah, I'd say that period there, Graham, was that the period when we started to really believe in ourselves and believe that we had a fantastic business and a long, great future ahead of us.
Excellent. And did that, in retrospect, did the period of 2012, did that give you bizarrely more confidence once you got over it? You actually gained, well, we've been through some bad times, we can handle it. We're resilient enough to be able to handle it.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And I think that the resilience that we have, and the resilience that we learned from that period, stuck through us all the way for many, many years, right through to how we responded to the pandemic. And I would say that, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, that period of 2012, as difficult as it was, in some respects was the best thing that ever happened to us. And we had to learn so quickly at the time, and we had to really change the way that we were doing things, and we had to try and do the impossible, and we achieved it. And I think that DNA and that belief system that we created as part of that process then really stuck with the company for subsequent years, and got us through those fantastic times. And then you look, when you get into when we got into 2020 and when we hit the pandemic, we had a workforce that was crisis ready almost, and
Yeah,
we were in a situation where, like many travel businesses, we've faced many crises over time, but after what we went through in 2012, that sort of resilience was still in us, and that response, that ability to response, was still in us. So we weren't as afraid as perhaps we would have been had we not have been through it.
sure. So you're battle ready. So you've had, your life in business life has done, you've all four of you have had fantastic time, basically. Hard work. I'm not saying it's just fallen upon it. It's great hard work and intelligence and facing off to tough times. But what does the future hold? Because you're all still very young men. You are renowned for, the Kissimmee, Florida vacation home scenario. Winged boots a little less, but that's fair enough. And I am talking, what you're known for in the trade. What does the future hold for you? I mean, you're all going to work your nuts off and float it on a stock exchange in 5 years' time, or do a cane piri and sell it off to some other big giant.
I think first and foremost, we're at this sort of 20-year mark now, and getting to 20 years, we've spent some time close to when borders were opening in 2021 to the US, to take a step back and realign our reason to exist and our values, and how we're going to take this forward beyond the pandemic. What do we see the future of Ocean Holidays, and where's that growth going to be? So to break it down very simply, you've got Ocean Florida, which is arguably the largest Florida specialist outbound tour operator in Europe. Makes up about 60% of the revenues of the group. And then you've got Winged Boots, which is a luxury personalized travel management service, which leads in luxury leisure, followed by corporate travel for SMEs. So you've got these two fantastic businesses which have come out of the pandemic particularly strong. So our ATOL numbers are 50% up versus pre-pandemic in terms of amount of passengers licensed to travel. And we thought, right, where are we taking this, and where are the opportunities? Now, the obvious opportunity for us is to diversify the destinations that we sell. So part of this rebrand is to get Ocean Florida and Ocean Holidays to evolve and come together. We're looking in the future at more destinations for Ocean Florida, but importantly, we're not looking to go worldwide straight away. We're looking at US, Caribbean, Mexico. So we're staying in that part of the world for Ocean Florida. We've got a long way to go, at 45,000 passengers a year. The US at its peak had 5 million. So we've got a long way to go before we're going to be anywhere near having a significant amount of market share, but we're still a sort of big-ish player as far as the US is concerned. So that's the starting point for Ocean Florida, and that will see us over the next 3, 4, 5 years grow Ocean Florida into what will become more of a worldwide proposition, essentially, but focusing on those areas of the world to begin with. And then Winged Boots is very much about scaling up what we're already doing. Winged Boots is a very small team, mostly high net worth, ultra high net worth, and C-suite and SME travel, but looking at how we can grow that alongside Ocean Florida Holidays, and continuing really to acquire and maintain clients in the way that it has for a number of years. But perhaps a bit faster than we did pre-pandemic. It's a fantastic business model, and it's built on repeat business and word of mouth. It won luxury travel agent, retail agent of the year just a few weeks back as well. So it's aligning those two businesses really. So eventually, what does that mean for the future? Well, we'd love to in 10 years time, 5-10 years time, be the largest mid to long haul luxury leisure tour operator in Europe, and that's something we're aiming for, we're gunning for. At the moment, we're not thinking about any sort of exit, as you mentioned there, or any such event at Ocean Holidays. We're young enough at the moment as we are, and we're hungry enough to keep going, and we're really enjoying it, albeit the last few years have been tough.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because obviously once it's known that you want to expand your product portfolio geographically and diversify, you must be inundated with destinations that are trying to persuade you to come and take product from them and set up, and all sorts of stuff. That's one. And secondly, in it with an ambitious plan like that, whilst you might not want to exit, does it mean that you would have to take external finance? Would that change the business?
I think we need to see how things go. I think it's too early. I think it's too early for us to be seriously considering any external funding coming into the business. The four of us still own the business 100%, and as it stands today, there's no necessary requirements. Some of the destinations that we're looking to go into, for example, are really, really low cost of entry. So if you look at how we're operating and where our growth is at the moment, a lot of our growth is in the trade. So Ocean Florida is now selling to retail agents and home workers up and down the country. We started doing that during the pandemic. So we're not chasing revenue via Google or via expensive paid advertising. We're simply making our packages available to people that wouldn't typically buy from us or haven't been able to buy from us in the past. So as it stands right now, the answer would be no, we aren't looking for, and we're not intending in the short term for external investment. But don't get me wrong, if it comes a point, or if and when it comes a point that in order to go that next level, that we need to we need to get, whether that's institutional money or otherwise into the business, then of course we will to reach those goals. But we're definitely not quite there yet. And I think in addition to that, we need to be realistic about the current market. COVID is whilst it's in the rear view mirror, I think appetite for investment is pretty low at the moment. We're in we're hopefully at the tail end of a cost of living crisis, and you can only see what's happening in the news a few weeks ago with Silicon Valley Bank and what's happening with the banking world. I don't think that debt or private equity right now has potential. Is looking actively to get into businesses like ours at the moment. You look across the market, nothing's really been done apart from trade transactions. Fantastic to see the Scott Dunn transaction recently by Flight Centre, but there's not much activity going on, and I don't know if
that's one option open for you, presumably acquisition.
Yes, it's an option it's definitely an option for us. I think for us, going back to our market share, the amount of effort and work it would take into a buy and build strategy, so buying businesses and building up that way, versus just increasing your market share with the resources and the people that you've got. Again, we're not at the stage that acquisitions I think are necessary just yet. I think we're probably years away from that. We've got so much opportunity with the resources that we got and the destinations that we sell and the destinations we're about to start selling, that it's that sort of continued organic growth that we did so well with pre-pandemic that we want to continue to capitalize on. We're happy to grow 20, 25, 30% a year. That's really good, solid grounding to keep going, and we don't need to do anything extraordinary to do that.
Good. Well, Harry, it all sounds very, very exciting. It sounds very enjoyable, basically, which is a key element of running a successful business, I think. And may long the gang and four rule. I mean, happy days. So thanks for your time, mate, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks for having me on.
Cheers.
Take care.